how does this align with America First?
Because it makes us bigger, stronger, and better. Canada, we'll see what happens with Canada, but the people of Canada would be paying less than half of the tax. If you look at the tax, they're going to be paying less than half the tax. They don't pay very much for military, and the reason they don't pay much is they assume that we're going to protect them. That's not an assumption they can make, because why are we protecting another country? Now, I love the people of Canada. We have a great relationship. But if they became our 51st state, it would be the greatest thing they could ever do. It would be unbelievable. It would be a cherished state. And think of how beautiful that country would be without that artificial line running right through it. Somebody drew it many years ago with a ruler, just a line. You look at how beautiful that is, wow, it would be very exciting. But if you look at Canada, it would be cherished as a 51st state. They don't pay their share of military in NATO. They pay very little for military. They're not protected at all. And the reason is they think we're going to protect them. The other thing is we subsidize them to the tune of about $200 billion a year. If we stop doing that, if we stop allowing them to make cars through tariffs and other things, cars, trucks, etc., what they make, they're not viable as a country. So we're making our country larger. We're making our country stronger. And in the case of Canada, if this should happen, I don't know how they can do it without us, because without the U.S., Canada really doesn't have a country. They do almost all of their business with us. And if we say we want our cars to be made in Detroit, with the stroke of a pen, I can do that. And other things in addition to that would not allow Canada to be a viable.
Donald Trump told two lies about himself on the campaign trail that have quickly run contrary to the actual policy of his presidency. The first being that he would lower prices, being the economic genius that he is, and the second is that he would be anti-war, anti-conflict now. Of course, that ended pretty quickly with all the tariff talk and the stupidest trade war in history. But what came out of that more than anything is Donald Trump's new obsession with Canada. And Justin Trudeau's response to all the ridiculous things he said. It seems like at this point, Justin Trudeau is more of a president for Americans than Donald Trump is, at least in the way that he has responded to these tariffs and how he has spoken to the American people, saying he does not want to get into a trade war with their closest friend, our nearest neighbor. And Donald Trump is happy to, but the conflict between Trudeau and Trump doesn't stop there, because Trudeau, indirectly or not, kind of humiliated Trump with an announcement he recently made that runs counter to one of Donald Trump's biggest policy initiatives, and we are going to get into that. But before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button, it goes a long way. And it really does mean a lot to me now. Before we get into what Justin Trudeau had to say, I want to check out what has been Donald Trump's sole focus of his presidency so far, and this clip of him talking about DEE.
In light of numerous actions taken by a number of bodies of the United Nations, which exhibit a deep anti-American bias, we have an executive order prepared for your attention that would withdraw the United States from the UN Human Rights Council, would withdraw the United States from the UNRWA, which is a refugee organization, and would also review American involvement in UNESCO, which has also exhibited anti-American bias. More generally, the executive order calls for a review of American involvement and funding in the UN in light of the wild disparities in levels of funding among different countries that, as you've expressed previously, is deeply unfair to the United States.
So I've always felt that the UN has tremendous potential. It's not living up to that potential right now. It really isn't, hasn't for a long time. It has, there are great hopes for it, but it's not being well run, to be honest, and they're not doing the job. A lot of these conflicts that we're working on should be settled, or at least we should have some help in settling them. We never seem to get help. That should be the primary purpose of the UN, the United Nations. And again, it's got great potential, and based on the potential, we'll continue to go along with it, but we got to get their act together.
What would they need to do, sir, to get their act together?
Well, they got to be fair to countries that deserve fairness. They have some countries, as you know, that are outliers, that are very bad, and they're being almost preferred as countries to those that do their job and are doing a good job. And they have to really, they're going to end up losing, a lot of countries are going to end up losing their credibility like other organizations, and then they're going to be nothing. The potential of the United Nations, and not everybody agrees with me on this, the potential of the United Nations is fantastic if properly run. So we'll see what happens.
How much money are you willing to take away from them?
Well, we're taking away a little bit, but we're not looking to take away money. This is so important that we're really, as you know, the United Nations is largely funded by us. But, and it shouldn't be, it should be funded by everybody, but we're disproportionate as we always seem to be. But it's something that if it ever lived up to the potential, in 10 minutes it would make up the difference. That's the kind of power it could have. Right now it doesn't have that power.
So Trump has clearly decided that lowering cost of gas, groceries, rent has gone out the window. He would like his presidency to be solely about culture wars. If he's not talking about DAE, he has to make sure that he's saying something transphobic. If he's not saying something transphobic, he has to be focused on calling the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. And if it's not that, he has to be demanding that Canada become the 51st state. It's anything but priorities for Donald Trump, but he is focused on things that don't help you. Like I said, he's driving them home as much as possible. And we saw that with an announcement that Donald Trump made about Black History Month and how it will be handled by federal agencies. Right here. Federal agencies bar Black History Month and other special observances. A number of federal agencies have barred celebrations related to MLK Jr. Day, Women's History Month, and other such observances to comply with Trump's executive orders. Federal agencies on Friday rushed to comply with Donald Trump's executive orders aimed at curtailing diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The executive orders prompted a flurry of memos and emails obtained by NBC News that modified the rules for staff at intelligence agencies in the military and across civilian departments regarding employee resource groups in the celebration of cultural awareness events this week. The Defense Intelligence Agency ordered a pause of all activities and events related to Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Black History Month, Juneth, LGBTQ Pride Month, Holocaust Remembrance Day, and other special observances to comply with President Donald Trump's executive order. According to a memo obtained by NBC News, the memo listed 11 observances that are now banned. It also said that all affinity groups and employee networking groups are immediately on pause. The directive comes as the Trump administration has made it a top priority to go after any programs perceived to be related to promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion in the federal government. And of course, all of that work to attack DE has made prices drop to the lowest levels ever. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously, why would that happen? He's not focused on anything that matters, but like I said, indirectly, or not someone who does care to celebrate Black history. Someone who does care to celebrate the diversity that has made us so strong in America and in Canada as well is Justin Trudeau, who after Trump made that announcement had his own little statement that I think sounds a lot more like what we'd want from an American president, and I want to check that out right here.
Bonjour à tous. It's Black History Month, a time to celebrate the achievements, the contributions, and the history of Black Canadians. A time to focus on investing in and uplifting future generations. When we first endorsed the UN International Decade for People of African Descent back in 2018, we made a commitment to empower Black communities, not just with words, but with actions. Whether that be in business, in innovation, in arts and culture, in social justice, or in community building. And we knew that we had to listen to Black voices to make that happen. Thanks to the leadership of countless Black-led organizations, leaders, and advocates, we've come a long way. Together, we launched Canada's first ever Black Entrepreneurship Program, the Supporting Black Canadians Communities Initiative, and just recently developed the Black Justice Strategy. The impact of these initiatives has been felt deeply in communities across the country, and that impact is only going to get bigger. But there's always more work to do. This is a country that believes at its core that we are stronger for our diversity, not in spite of it. So we'll keep listening to Black leaders, amplifying Black voices, and building a better Canada, one where everyone has a fair shot. Happy Black History Month. Thank you all. Merci, mes chers amis.
Now, I don't know if this was direct trolling from Justin Trudeau. Some of the language sounded a little bit more targeted, maybe than you'd usually expect out of an announcement like this. Or it could be the fact that, as I've said a couple of times on the show, he just seems much more like the American president than Donald Trump does. It was crazy listening to his response when talking about Canada's retaliatory tariffs, of how worried he was for the impact of them on the cost for Americans, their daily lives. Justin Trudeau actually felt bad worse than Donald Trump did for raising the cost of things on his own citizens. Other world leaders aren't just laughing at us, they're kind of disappointed. They want to see America be better. They want us to be a strong ally. They want us to be a strong world power. Donald Trump is doing everything to keep that from happening in his incessant focus on everything that hurts our world standing, and is just frankly dumb. The attacks on DU are an obvious distraction that Donald Trump employs whenever a failure is being pointed out. RFK Jr., struggling through his confirmation hearing, talk about DE Pete Hague failing in his new job. Talk about DE prices skyrocketing. Talk about DE. They trying to flood the zone, and we have to call it out. Especially when the Trump DE who he's putting in his administration is so blatantly ridiculous. These are unqualified people, and someone who did a great job pointing that out was Jasmine Crockett right here.
President Trump is appointing Darren Beattie to a top State Department role. I know many people remember who Darren Beattie is. He was fired in 2018 from being a speechwriter. He was speaking at a conference attended by white nationalists. And then a few months ago, he posted this, Congresswoman: competent white men must be in charge if you want things to work. Unfortunately, our entire national ideology is predicated on coddling the feelings of women and minorities and demoralizing competent white men. Your reaction to his appointment?
He needs to go. I mean, this is very simple. We right now have a white supremacist that is sitting in the White House. He is backed up by other white supremacists. And if you really want to know who the criminals are in this country, you can Google it. You don't have to trust me. But the people that commit 80% of the most violent crimes in this country are white supremacists. Yet for whatever reason, they sit and they serve at the pleasure of the president. They are the ones that were there on January 6th, tearing our democracy down physically. And now we have them tearing us down right here from within. Here is the problem.
Of course, Congresswoman, to interrupt you, but President Trump, of course, has denied any allegations he's a white supremacist, and that's why he apparently fired what he. I know your point, but he did fire Darren Beattie in reaction, they believe, in part to his attendance at that conference. Does that change your opinion in any way?
No, it doesn't change my opinion, because we saw what he literally recently just posted, and the coddling is for the white boys. That's what's happening right now. I am tired of the white tears.
If they are going to speak so nonsensically, we have to call out their nonsense. That's what Jasmine Crockett's doing. That's what so many Democrats are doing. And of course, that's what we are going to be doing on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button. You can leave a like on this video. And if you stuck around at the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you soon.